crew, man. This crew called Hoop Jargon. They've been getting at it, man. They the ones that's gonna grill you, man, because they majority are all Houston people. So that's
shout out to Hoop Jargon.
Man, I'm here with my man with Hoop Jargon, the best in the game, man. And you know I only let selected few in my circle. And this is the real dude right here. We gonna get down with the get down.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Happy Friday to you. You're now observing the Hoop Jargon Show on Friday. We're going to talk about Coach Steve Nash, former Coach Steve Nash, and we're going to walk it down real slow. So appreciate y'all showing up to this, I ain't going to say a joyous occasion, because I don't want to be a guy to celebrate somebody going down, but I do want to say I've been on this storyline for about a good 4 months now. I've been telling you Steve Nash is not a good coach for about 4 months. And it's funny that this thing has kind of come to a crescendo the way it has. But we're going to walk it down slow. I know I sound a little nasally today, but I appreciate y'all rocking with me. So let's get it. Now, the first video I'm going to show you, just to set backdrop, is a video I made from 4 months ago. And we're talking about KD and his indecision. And the name of the video is called KD is playing hardball. We need answers. So I'm going to start off comparing what I said 4 months ago to what mainstream media is saying, so we can get a whole consensus about what's really going on with the Steve Nash situation. All right. So without further delay, without further ado, shout out to my guy Between the Game Sports in the building. Appreciate you being here. I was gonna bring you in on this, but I didn't know what you had going today, so I just went. I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and do it solo dolo. All right, so share screen. Now, I know I was supposed to do this video yesterday. I just was to be frank, I ain't feel like it. All right, so in this video, I'm covering what I said the month previous, and this is doing the thick of it right now. This is when everybody didn't know, excuse me, what was going to go on with the whole situation. So it's just me covering this, and so without further ado, let's run it.
Fat Bear bum ass. I wouldn't mind him going to Brooklyn to help them just get a little nasty. They need some nastiness.
I always got it out for Pat Bear.
Get Steve Nash to help out that coaching seat too.
Oh, what? There you go, right there.
Coach.
What? Hold on. Bring it back.
Look at Fat Bear bum.
So again, you see my statement. They need to get Steve Nash bum ass out of there, is what my statement was. And the reality is, you know what? I'll let my former me talk. On top of the former me talking, then I'll hop back in. So let's just do it that way.
Man, I wouldn't mind him going to Brooklyn to help them just get a little nasty. They need some nastiness over there, man. They need to get Steve Nash to help out that coaching seat too, man.
To quote Pope, hello.
Bingo.
Said this a month ago. They need to get him out of there. He can't coach. Well, if he can't coach, he ain't doing a good job of it, because goddamn it, they ain't got no motion on that offense. It looks stagnant. It's very predictable. Horrible. But let's keep going. This is me giving y'all this game months ago. I was like, if he is a coach, he's a horrible one, because it doesn't look like anybody's coaching. And don't take it from me. Remember when Kyrie Irving said they don't need a coach. One day I can be the coach. One day KD can be the coach, right? The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding.
He's not a coach. I think that's KD's main problem. Like, KD just do the system. He's a guy who can play anything, but when you ISO him so much, man, when you get up in him, man, you can disrupt him a little bit.
There we go. Predictable offenses get you beat. That's what Steve Nash was.
And I think most teams know that. That's why it's easy to guard. Kobe's in my top 5. You tripping?
So I've already pointed that out. It's Steve Nash. This is me again, a month later, saying the same thing.
Steve Nash probably, if you remember, KD likes to go places where organic basketball is played. Right? He wants to go somewhere where organic basketball is played, and that is not going on in Brooklyn, man. It's forced offense. It's bad offense. Like Pope say, hello. Again, man, I gave y'all prophecy on this a month ago, and I don't want to bore y'all with me just rambling, because on this same stream, go back and fact check me. On this same stream, I went down and I stated that it's probably something going on with the front office too. I say it on here. The two not things that KD said that he had problem with was Sean Marks and Steve Nash. I said this beforehand because it was the only thing that made sense. It wasn't Kyrie Irving. He's never said that he disliked Kyrie Irving. He's never had any passive aggression towards Kyrie Irving. Like, I knew it wasn't Kyrie Irving. So I was like, it's either Nash because that offense sucks, or it's Sean Marks bringing in
not so great talent. It had to be one or two, and it turns out it was both of them.
I guarantee you. I said it's probably something going on with the front office because the Kyrie situation does not make sense. I said that on the stream. So I thought I said them back to back, so I said it a little bit down the line. But anyway, let's go back to what we were saying because, excuse me, I just want to let it be known there's other guys out here instead of people, on these news shows who try to project their own little.
Okay, so yes, I'm kind of going into like how the media does, but as you guys can clearly see, I've been on this train for a while now. I've been saying Steve Nash cannot coach. This was 4 months ago I said this. This is before the controversy. This is when Kyrie and KD just started letting it be known that they had issues with what was going on with the program, with Kyrie threatening to hold out, with KD requesting to be traded. I was like, well, it's probably because coaching is so bad. I look like a genius right now, right? All right, so let's go a little forward. And I want to see, I'm going to look at two more videos, and we're going to talk about Kevin. You know what? Let's go Kevin Durant first. Because KD, a lot of players, they say a lot without saying a lot. So you just lost your coach, Hall of Famer Steve Nash, and watch how cavalier KD is when speaking on this, and it tells you everything you need to know about him being a great coach or a coach that he even gives a damn about, to be frank.
On Prop 31 means, yes, on 31 ends the sale of candy-flavored tobacco products. Yes, stops big tobacco from targeting our kids. Yes, protects kids from nicotine addiction. Vote yes on 31.
In your mind, well, first off, I guess, when did you find out about Steve? How were you informed?
Y'all hit that like on the way in. Appreciate y'all. We
woke up from my nap and turned to the right and seen it on ESPN.
And what were your, initial reaction? Everybody knows what went on this summer, but what was your first thought when you saw that?
Oh, shocked. You're always shocked when a move like this happens, but it's normal in the NBA. So it's about giving.
I see the comment. Dante has no Kyrie stream. You know what? I'm going to leave that one alone because if I go in, I'm going to go all the way in on that one. And I've been working with some sponsors and stuff like that, so I ain't trying to lose none of that. So I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that content be. But no, I definitely got a lot to say about that. But I'm gonna leave that be for the moment being right now.
Been ready for the game tonight, so it's a quick turnaround always in the league. Especially during the season. You got practice games coming up, so you can't think too much about it. But it was on the mind for a little bit today.
For a guy of your stature, were you consulted at least beforehand, even though you didn't know for a certainty?
Come on. Let's be real. We're pros. We're veterans. We had a tough start. It was a rocky year last year, rocky summer.
So he telling you without telling you that, I ain't tripping. He gone. Think about it. You lost a Hall of Fame point guard who has this basketball mind that you can use for so much good, and he's kind of just like, stuff happens. People get fired. Could you imagine Phil Jackson getting fired and Kobe coming up to the podium and saying something like this? Could you imagine it? Could you imagine Ty Lue getting fired and LeBron just kind of people get fired every day? It just shows you, man, he can't let on that he's happy. But, this is literally what he asked for. So now his hands are clean. It's like, yeah, well, shit, what I wanted kind of went to fruition.
We knew that everybody was being evaluated. That's just how it is in the league, So, I like working with Steve. I like working with the coaching staff. It was a roller coaster the last few years, but, the core of it, basketball, is something that we all love to do, So, regardless of who the coach, regardless of, the circumstances, still got to come to work. So I enjoy coming to work with Steve.
Well played, Katie, because nothing about that is a rain endorsement that Steve Nash was impactful to you, and the record showed it. The record showed it. Kevin Price said that's a dumpster fire. That's you know what? I still think it's correctable, especially bringing in Ime Udoka, who is a big person, who is big on team bonding in the sense that you understand pecking order and big on defense. And I think that's two things Brooklyn struggles with. So I think those things are two great things that can help them turn the corner. Let's see. Between Game Sports says KD and the Nets were a big toe away from the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago, and this combo would be different. Yes, absolutely. Or you could say a James Harden hamstring injury. You can say that as well. So those two things did kind of make this narrative go a different way, but it could have definitely been more of a successful, more positive situation. Unfortunately, that's not what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Price says, Durant don't know what he wants, truly confused. Yes, he is. He's a malcontent, just like Kyrie is. Yes, absolutely. His opinion, he just want to hoop. Exactly. He don't want to get his hands dirty. He tries to do these little business ventures where he's kind of trying to be which I don't begrudge him for, man. It's good to be more than just, an athlete if you aspire to do so. Nothing wrong with that. Say their problem is bigger than basketball. Yeah, it's a lot of minutia missing with this program. But, with all that being said, your head coach should be able to cultivate, especially with all that talent. And Steve Nash is not a coach, man. He's just not. In the past 2 years of having Steve Nash, the Nets were 44-38, which was last year. They lost in the Eastern Conference first round. As we know, the Celtics blew the doors off them in 4 games. And I say this all the time, it's because they were so predictable, man. They were so predictable. It was easy to beat them because you know what the hell they're going to do. And lamenting to what Will was saying, they lost in the Eastern Conference semis when KD took that three-pointer that got called back as a 2, and they ended up losing that game, I believe, in overtime to the Bucks. So, very less than stellar from Nash. And the problem was, if you actually watch the games, is they didn't run anything. They're easy to guard because they get to the it's nothing but ISO ball. You had guys like Patty Mills in there who are used to playing in systems, championship level systems, and you weren't using them properly. You brought in Drummond and he was a non-factor. And that comes from coaching. I'm sorry, man. I'm not absolving Steve Nash from blame. Sorry.
Head coach to the Brooklyn Nets, Jacques Vaughn, who will be the acting head coach tonight against Chicago. This was a mutual decision between Nash and the Nets, just 7 games into the season.
Catch your comments. Appreciate y'all. Y'all hit that like button if you're just coming in. Let's get some more bodies in here. Let's see. Dante says Nash was really bad. Of course, the team played no defense. He made no adjustments. No sense, really. Yes. To me, watching those guys, they were free for all offense. That's terrible, man. You're not going to be at a championship level. I don't care how much talent you got. If you don't execute, you have to be able to execute. You have to. Tone S says, what Nash was to Brooklyn is what Derek Fisher was to the Knicks. His coach, yes, thrown into a position too early. And I know most people say, well, what about Steve Kerr? Steve Kerr worked out, damn it. Steve Kerr worked out. Clearly, Derek Fisher wasn't ready because he failed in 2 different positions. Hell, Jason Kidd, it took him going back to be an assistant coach for him to figure it out. So, I mean, these kind of things, it takes time to learn how to be a head coach. And in my opinion, I said off rip, Steve Nash was thrust into this too quickly. Just because you're a point guard and you're a smart player doesn't mean that's going to translate to good basketball. Does not mean that.
Steve Nash no longer the head coach after a 2-5 start. So I welcome in our NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. And what can you tell us about the timing and how this decision went down?
Matt, this has been a discussion within the Nets with Steve Nash and management ownership here in the last few days as this season really just started to unravel. The 4 straight losses, the Kyrie Irving situation.
Now, I will say this, Kyrie and his little stuff he's been doing, I don't necessarily disagree with his point of view, but the timeliness of it, yeah, it's pretty bad for what they overarching trying to do. That's for sure.
Even with a win last night against Indiana where they blew a 24-point lead, had to hold on at the end, I think the fact that this team has struggled so much defensively, 29th in the league going into last night, that this was becoming an inevitability. And so Jacques Vaughn will be the acting head coach tonight against the Bulls. And I'm told that the Celtics or the Nets are expected to.
Now, of course, this was a few days ago. So as we know, Ime Udoka was brought in now, but this was kind of in the speculatory realm. So just to kind of give full context of the nature of when this video was actually done.
Inquire about a few coaches, including suspended Celtics coach Ime Udoka, who had been an assistant in Brooklyn before he went to Boston, former Jazz coach Quinn Snyder. And I think the Nets make.
I thought Quinn Snyder would have been a good selection as well. Quinn Snyder's a really good coach. He turned that Utah from nothing to something, so he gets my respect, definitely.
Take some time here to try to see if there's another coach beyond Jacques Vaughn to try to get this season back on track.
Yeah, because it's early enough in the season, Woj, to where 7 games in, I mean, theoretically they could make an in-season move to get a coach in. Is that why they're thinking do this now to see if we can rectify this thing?
I think that's certainly.
Man, listen, man. This is just indicative of a coach who's lost the locker room. So smart teams get ahead of this. And I'm not saying the Nets are the best run organization ever by the furthest stretch of the imagination. Because the way they spun it was like Steve Nash and the Nets came to a mutual decision. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Steve Nash didn't march into the locker room and say, well, you know, guys, I just think you guys may look for a different coach. No, that's not what happened. He knew the heat was on. He knew since this summer when KD was threatening to ask for a trade. He knew. He lost the locker room, man. And when you lose the locker room, this is what the fallout looks like. Let's see. We catch up on the comments. Appreciate y'all being a part of this stream with your boy. Let's see. Say Nash was really bad, of course. The team played no. Okay, you did that already. When Nash was, Brooklyn was just okay. We did that already. Curry was a GM for a minute, was he? Not sure. Y'all in the chat correct that. I'm not sure. Nash isn't just an alpha guy, man. Nobody falls unless you just love the guy. Yeah, he was never an alpha. I agree with that. And I would contend you don't necessarily have to be an alpha. You just got to know how to manage other alphas. And I think that's what Steve Nash didn't know how to do. Kevin Price says he'll bring in Mark Jackson. Well, you say hell, bring in Mark Jackson. Well, everybody says Mark Jackson, but, you know, I doubt that that's going to happen, and people got their own reasons why. You know what I mean? So who knows what the true reason is. I heard he's unprofessional, but some say it's because it's his Christian beliefs. Who knows? But, yeah, I think that Mark Jackson trained us as went to the station. Kerr was the president of basketball operations with Phoenix. Okay, yeah. That sounds about right. Basketball ops. You know, I don't remember him being a GM. Okay, appreciate that correction.
Part of it, and this is certainly an organization right now that is trying to just hold it together. And listen, we know what went on in the offseason of how close this perhaps came to completely breaking apart. Kyrie Irving leaving, Kevin Durant being traded. And I think for the Nets, I think Steve Nash, as much as he had struggled to start this season with this group, especially on the defensive end, I think I'm told he had reached the end for himself as coach, and that this was very much a mutual decision. This has been certainly more than a challenging group to
see. Again, I got to call cap on that. There wasn't nothing mutual about getting fired, bro. Like I think you knew that it's either you walk out the door or we're going to toss you out the door. So he just chose to walk out the door with dignity. But nah, bro. You've done a horrible job with this team considering the talent level that you have, considering the basketball knowledge you have. And coming out starting 2-5 is that's sickening, man.
The coach, certainly a lot of injuries. Ben Simmons, who's not been the Ben Simmons, the all-star Ben Simmons from earlier in his career in Philadelphia so far.
He's still been playing pretty well to me, all things considered, coming off a back injury. So, you got to kind of anticipate he's not going to come back to all-star form right off rip, missing a year and some change. So, I mean, I don't understand that the being mystified by what Ben Simmons is right now.
Far in Brooklyn, that's been a big part of this. That's certainly been a part of the frustration. He again another game tonight with a sore knee, and so this is a Nets team that is reeling, and they've got a tough stretch ahead of them. They thought they could get some wins with the opponents they had here in the previous week. Again, back-to-back tonight with Chicago, but Steve Nash is out. And so
let's see. So Dante says, I like what Ben is doing. I don't care about him shooting. Let him do it. Yes, and that's what he's doing. He's pretty much being that perfect glue guy that the Nets need to kind of shore up the Kyrie and the KD isolation problems. Because as you see Kyrie and KD from a point standpoint, them guys are still lighting it up. And Ben is just like, he's not even tripping. Y'all seen that play? We got that steal on a fast break. And instead of going and dunking the ball on a fast break, he goes and gives a shovel pass back to KD, and KD dunks it to send the game in overtime or something to that effect. Like, Ben Simmons has no ego whatsoever on offense, and I think that's perfect because the Nets are flooding with ego offensively with KD and Kyrie. Just saying.
Certainly, Ime Udoka looms as a viable candidate in Brooklyn. I'm told that Boston will allow him to leave for another job, whether it's a head coaching job, an assistant coaching job, if he's offered it. And so certainly I think that's a consideration. And Quinn Snyder, who stepped down from the Jazz at the end of last season, certainly a high-level NBA coach.
Agreed.
He's still technically under contract with Utah. You'd have to work out compensation with the Jazz. And certainly those are a couple of candidates. Mike D'Antoni, another coach who had been on that.
Listen to me good. Nets stated, well, you didn't hire him so good. Mike D'Antoni is done, man. Let him ride off into the sunset because the last thing they need is worse defense than we played already with Steve Nash, man. And as we know, Steve Nash was a offshoot of Mike D'Antoni. So I'm glad they didn't go that way because that wouldn't help anything. Ben got no ego on offense because he can't shoot air ball and layups. Well, I think that was kind of a psychological thing he had going, and so that's why. But you ain't lying though. Sick of D'Antoni. Yeah, man. Stop bringing his name up. Let his career die. Let him ride into the sunset. As an advisor, that's cool. Bring him in as an advisor, but no, his head coaching days should be over.
Coaching staff. He's a consultant in New Orleans, so I think you would expect the Nets to look for more of a veteran presence right now if they don't stay with Jacques Vaughn.
Well, finally for me, and we'll get you out of here, this thing in the offseason for the Nets was an absolute disaster, including Kevin Durant saying he wanted the coach out. How much of the offseason and what went on lingers?
It's funny how nobody really brings that up. Like, KD literally was like, they got to go or I go. They literally had this discussion, man. So now people are so dumbfounded by this. And that's why I played that video of KD first. KD was trying his best to kind of be what they call the word being I had it in my head and I just lost it. Having decorum. But I mean, come on, man. He already said it already. He said he don't want him there. Because he's a horrible coach. Nets the gift that keeps giving. Yeah, they're a funny bunch, man. They're a funny bunch. Very cantankerous group. Kevin Price has facts on the video. Which video are you talking about, Kev? Yeah, man, it's they just can't stop getting their own way. And for it to be so much talent, it kind of shows that there has to be some kind of calming presence to kind of rein all that personality in with a KD, with a Kyrie. And that's when Steve Nash also wasn't. Damn the X and O's. You want the person who could moderate those two, get them to be, succinct, get them to be, on one accord, focused. You let them be too much. There's such thing as letting a team be too much of individuals. We've seen this happen with the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, Pete Carroll was really good at letting guys be them, and they had their opinions about things. But then it became too much, and they couldn't. And then guys started getting injured, and you couldn't rein that stuff back in. And I think that's what the Nets suffered from a little bit. The Udoka was serving assistant from 20 to 21 before hired by Boston. He has a history. Yeah, so he has rapport built in. He has credibility built in, having taken a team to the final. So, yeah, absolutely. Cameron joint. Video, Cameron going off on Ben in the video. I haven't seen that one. I got to check that one out.
Into the regular season where there was just no way for this thing to be recovered.
I think there was a sense, Matt, in the preseason that they were able to get the communication back on track. They were able to talk to each other. But I think what happens with this Nets team, you've seen it before, when they hit a rough patch, there has not been staying power to fight through adversity.
Yes, and what that means is that's fake love. That means that camaraderie that you sat down and talked through, it's fake. Because it's fake because the first time, like you said, during adversity, you revert back to what you were already, which means you didn't really buy in the first place. Which your coach should be the guy to bridge that gap for you. He's supposed to meet you on your level, Figure out what your motivations are and use those things to push you forward. To me, Steve Nash, he strikes me as a guy who just kind of came to work, did his job, and went home. Now, I don't know it to be factual, but that's how it comes off to me.
And I think you saw another example of that here with the way the season started and then got away from the Nets. And certainly, don't discount this situation with Kyrie Irving and the stress that's put on not just this team, but the organization, the community in Brooklyn. And I think it's more than perhaps any coach would have been able to withstand. We'll see what the Nets do next here, but I think very much they're going to look outside the organization initially and see if there's a coach that makes sense for this group, and we'll see how long this group is going to stay together with the Nets. Certainly a lot of uncertainty, perhaps more change on the horizon, but it started with Steve Nash today, who is out as the Nets coach after 2+ seasons.
Yeah. All right. Our NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, broke this news about 10 minutes ago.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube for live streaming.
So we saw the Woj commentary. We saw KD himself speak about this. Actually, you know what? I'm going to share one more. Stephen A. had some input on this, and I thought his was real good because he was answering to J.J. Redick. As a player, I respected J.J. Redick. I respected what he was. He's a guy with limited ability who got a lot out of his production, and I think there is something to be said about that. I respect guys like that. My whole thing is just like, when you pander too much to athletes, when you pander too much to coaches, because you were a former player, it takes away from the realness of your commentary. And from my view, it seems that that's what J.J. Redick does a lot, and I'm just not a fan of that. I'm not a fan. All right, so let's do the last video, and I won't make this video super long. Oh, doggone it. What am I doing? What am I doing? Sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to let them go. The segment goes about 3 minutes, and we can keep it pushing. Thank y'all again. Y'all hit the like button if you're new. If you have not done so already, subscribe button if you're new. Definitely need y'all in here supporting the stream, and I appreciate each and every one of y'all. All right. So here we go.
Coach devoid of experience to get a head coaching job in the NBA. That was not my argument with him. My argument against him was that he had no coaching experience, and to get that job.
Bingo.
Usually when you have no coaching experience and you get a head coaching job, you don't walk into a championship situation.
Bingo.
When they had KD and they had Kyrie, there were immediate championship expectations. So it wasn't that he got a head coaching job. It was that he got that job. And that was something, just so you know, JJ Redick, because you may not know this, but I actually picked up the phone and called Steve Nash and explained to him exactly what I meant when I said what I said, so we understood one another, because that's how much respect I have for him. I was letting him know it wasn't a knock against him, but you had KD and Kyrie. They were a part of the whole social justice movement. They were talking about the paucity of black coaches, et cetera, et cetera. And then KD comes to the franchise, obviously having significant say, and they're in a position to pretty much pick a head coach, and they picked a head coach with zero coaching experience whatsoever.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Stephen A. Man, I never liked the hire because it's just like, to me, and I think Stephen A. is going to crystallize his point. You still got to be a leader of men. You have to. You have to understand locker room situations, not from a player standpoint, but from a coach standpoint. One of my good friends is a coach at Louisiana Tech, man, Talvin Heston. He called me and we talked about him being a head coach. And he's just saying how it's so much different from being an assistant coach. We're talking about a guy that coached at Texas Tech, at University of Houston, coach at another big school, in this case, Oral Roberts, right? So he knows high-level basketball very well. But he was saying him being a head coach at La Tech, it's like nothing he's ever done before. So when you bring a guy in like Steve Nash and like Stephen A's point, when you bring him in to preside over such a good and talented team, that's rough, man. That's rough. And I just, again, I mirror him in this sentiment that I never thought he was the guy for the job.
And not only black coaches will bypass, but white coaches who are qualified will bypass too.
I don't understand what the point is if you're talking about both of them. That's a moot point, but keep rocking, bro.
For a championship situation. So I want you to know that I picked up the phone at that time and called Steve Nash directly to explain exactly what I meant, and he had no problem with it because he understood exactly where I was coming from. I thought it was important for you to know that, JJ. In terms of him being a terrible head coach, he wasn't a terrible head coach, okay? The fact...
Bullshit. Yes, he was. He was a terrible head coach. Yes, he was. If you just watch, man, it was said that the last game before he got fired, Kyrie Irving waved him off like 10 times, calling plays. Like, he's just a horrible head coach, man. Now, maybe he can, learn from this, lick his wounds and come back into it and be a good coach. Maybe. I'm just evaluating what I saw. What I saw was a bad head coach.
The fact of the matter is, all the points you
and damn near a non-existent head coach.
Articulated, he wasn't given a proper chance. I acknowledge that. But what you know and what we all know is, particularly in today's NBA, it comes down to your ability to be leaders of men. Absolutely. Now, if you have a difficult time doing that with this squad, that doesn't mean that it's entirely your fault. Of course, a lot of it falls on Kyrie and KD, but you can't be completely absolved. And as Mad Dog pointed out, since you can't fire the players, what you gonna do?
Well, I just want to follow. As Mad Dog pointed out, Steve Kerr did get a job with the team that then won a championship. There's recent precedent for this. And Steve Kerr, look, your reputation as a player, your reputation as a teammate, your reputation in terms of basketball knowledge, all these things matter.
I agree with that. I just think when you put too much of a premium on what you did as a player and you don't account for you being a coach, I just think that's backwards logic. I just do.
They matter to owners when they're looking to hire a new coach. And Steve Nash had that. Look, I do agree with your assessment that Steve Nash was not the right coach for this team. But the question is, and this probably leads us to Molly's next question, is there anyone that can coach this team?
Of course it is. Of course it is. What do you mean? You're saying that as if no one can step in and coach KD, Kyrie Irving, and Ben Simmons? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Is that rhetorical? Or?
It is rhetorical.
Yeah, okay.
Rhetorical.
All right.
Yeah.
How's it? He's saying like that's a mic drop or something. Like, what?
Then I'm going to bring in Mad Dog now. Thank you.
All right, so we going to end the series there. But so again, man, Steve Nash is kind of getting this kid gloves treatment. And I'm not going for that. I'm not going. You had plenty of talent. You had plenty of support. You're just not a good coach. Not a good coach. And what you're seeing from the reaction you're getting from the media at large is kind of mirroring that sentiment. So I think we can slam the door on that. Hopefully Steve Nash can get himself together. Hopefully he can lick his wounds and get back to it. Because, that ain't it, bro. What you put up in Brooklyn those 2 years with all that talent, not good enough, Steve Nash. Not good enough. So we'll end the stream there. I want to keep it light because I got stuff to do on this Friday. But thank y'all, man, for tuning in Hoop Jargon. Y'all hit the like button. Y'all hit the subscribe button. And as always, man, you appreciate it. I got to go do some work. Normally I open the panel up, but I think I'm going to stop it there. Yeah, we're going to stop it there. So, all right, y'all. Till next time, we out. Thank y'all. Peace.